we are back.
I got you.
Reverb in here.
Oh, I got you fine.
Yeah, good.
All right.
I can tell you can hear yourself back.
All right,
yes.
so yeah, I can hear myself back. I had YouTube going to send you that link. All right, we are back with a victorious edition of Seminole Sidelines First Impressions as FSU beats Clemson 31-24 in overtime. And boy, it was a tale of two halves, offensively, defensively, for both teams. But a couple of things we learned about was that fumbles for touchdowns change momentum in games. We saw it happen last week at Boston College, and we saw it happen for FSU tonight as Kalen DeLoach makes a strip sack fumble and then goes and picks up the fumble and returns it for a touchdown. And then, of course, we found out, we're reminded why they brought Keelan Coleman to Tallahassee as he makes a great catch in overtime. 31-24, boys. I don't even know where to begin as I start looking on, as I try to look at stats and talk to you guys. There's a lot of good to talk about. The important thing is, listen, you beat Clemson for the first time since 2014. You beat them at home. You beat them in overtime. And looking at the schedule moving forward, really, if FSU plays the way it did today with that kind of intensity, it wasn't perfect, but you've got Duke, Miami, and Florida really are the only teams on the schedule that as it sets up today with the way other teams have played that might be able to obviously stay with Florida State. And, Duke and Miami are the only two conference games. But, Jerry, let's start with you. This show is called First Impressions for a reason. We have had no benefit of replay, and we're reacting on the fly here. We don't even have time to break down the stats, really. But what were your impressions of the game?
Well, I thought the defense was the difference. They played poorly. We were all worried about this going into the season. We were worried about that secondary. And that first half, it was as if Clemson they just knew what we were going to do, and they had an answer for everything that we had defensively. At halftime, it was a tale of two halves, as you said. We still didn't play great football in the second half, but we held them to one touchdown. We stopped them in the red zone and forced them to try a field goal, which they missed, thank God. And we had the strip sack score. So the defense gave up one touchdown, and they scored one touchdown. And in terms of lighting up the scoreboard, that was the difference.
Yeah, and all the scoring for the most part happened in the first half, with FSU scoring on 3 straight possessions, 17 points. I'm sorry, one of those drives was in the field goal to start the third quarter. Clemson scored on 3 of its first 4 drives, including a field goal on its first drive, then two TDs after that. And then, of course, in the second half, we saw the exact same opposite of what we saw in the first half. FSU's defense started bringing pressure. Clemson did not have a drive of over 44 yards after its first touchdown in the second half. And then, of course, Florida State got throttled down too with some things Clemson did. They only had one drive of over 41 yards in the second half. Listen, it was 45 yards, excuse me, which was a field goal drive to make it 17-17, I believe. So it was a tale of two halves. Listen, FSU started, but before we get into that, I want to get your first impressions, JP and Kez, but JP, we'll start with you.
Well, first of all, I want to say how happy I am to get a win over Clemson. And number 2, to be on with this panel. These OGs here with Kez and Jerry and you, man, this feels like it's 1995 again. This is good stuff. So it's great to see you both. And you too, Pat.
Thank you.
It just, it was just to, let everybody know, me and Pat and Jerry, we're nitpicking before we come on here, and we'll get to all that. But let's, like Jerry, you said, man, let's state the obvious. The first win over Clemson was 2014. You're at least for me, you're 2 years ahead of schedule for what Mike to get back into the national championship conversation. I think you're still 2 years ahead of where I thought you could be. Should have taken longer, but God bless the portal and NIL. A lot of people doing the right things. I think this is a time to say the administration has finally figured stuff out. We're heading in the right direction. NIL is good. We're using the portal. We got a hell of a freaking coach. We got a great culture that we're building. And this win today signifies that FSU is back. You got to beat the bully. And there were many opportunities to lose this game today. And we'll get into some of the minutia of it. But I'm not going to get lost in the fact that this is a huge freaking win to even get to this point, to beat Clemson on the road, to go to 4-0, to have a win over LSU. You know, this is freaking fantastic. We know where we were. Just, hey, we are not too far removed from losing to Jacksonville State, for God's sakes.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Don't trigger me. Hey, Kez, what are your first thoughts?
You know what?
Game?
Just for big picture, right? The big picture for us is, you know what? I think you have an identity of the team, right? You know, you said from last year to this year that they learned how to finish games, and so I've just been a part. I've been a part of some wide rights, and I've seen teams that just like, you know what? They just can't help. They can finish games no matter how it happens. They seem to be in the right place at the right time. A play happens, they keep fighting to the end. A block field goal, something happens to where they can make a play at the end, and that is a positive because that doesn't talk about, you know, strategy and plays and calls and all that kind of stuff. That talks about your belief and your belief in your coaches, your belief in your team, and your investment into the program. And so what we look at now is we got great investment in the program by the players. Okay, those guys don't stop playing until the last whistle, and they keep playing. So if you win close games like that, that's what usually happens. So that's the big picture for me, is the culture is good. All right, the belief is good, the camaraderie and team is good. You know, and then we can get down into the details of some of the things you don't like, right? I got things I like. You know, I like obviously Kia making a play at the end, and then Johnny having a big game. Johnny had a big game, you know, although he got a lot of opportunities on fade routes, but Johnny had some big plays in the game to where he made them pay for playing man coverage and zero coverage out there. And so you want to consistently see that you know, guys can't consistently. Well, you got to dictate, and so we were able to dictate some of the passing game. Our running game wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. My goodness, you know, and so that thing was just kind of tore up from the floor. It was beginning of the game. It was kind of, you know, it had some promising plays, but by the end of the game, that thing we were getting battered. And then also our protection was not as good on offense too. And then, you know, and defensively, I thought we played good. I thought we had better pass rush than we had. Yeah, and it was sporadic, but they seemed to handle us a little bit on our pass rush, you know. And again, he got rid of the ball pretty quick, and that's why they didn't have a whole lot of down the field passes. But you know, they still seemed like they were stopping us from getting the pressure we thought we could possibly get.
Agreed.
Yeah, listen, it was you know, back and forth the first half, then everything kind of shut down. Listen, I was a little bit surprised when you look at this that FSU ran for an average of 0.03 yards, 0.3 yards per carry in the second half, and was still able to pull out this game for the day. 19 rushes for 21 yards. If you had told me that Florida State was going to be made that one-dimensional on offense, I don't think I would have told you they won the game.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if I saw.
But, you know, obviously, the big plays struck for them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of disappeared out of the offense.
Yeah, usually they run that counter. I mean, they run that counter like a million times, and I don't recall seeing a whole bunch of it. Right, that counter play that we like so much, and so I think we saw maybe a couple of counts. I remember a couple of counts, but we just didn't. You know, we used to measure on that. Today it didn't seem like we measured on that, and so. I don't know why, you know, the certain looks that they didn't like or matchups, but, you know, some things look a little different in the running game.
Kez, what did you see from Adams Fuller's defense in the first and from the first half to the second half? The obvious things to say they brought more pressure, which they did, and it did seem to work. Yeah. But what did you see, and why do you think he made that adjustment, other than obviously Cade Klubnik was picking them apart in the first half?
Yeah, man, you know, and I think that's what it was. He had to bring some more of his exotic blitzes too. You know, some outside, you know, what guys were kind of linebackers were delayed blitzing, and you had corner blitzes and free safety blitzes, stuff like that, to be able to see if they can mess with him. And so, I mean, I think for us, well, we usually don't have to do that, right? Because we got really good defensive ends and really good defensive linemen, so we usually don't have to do that. But, you know, I felt like he had to pull that out there to get some pressure on this guy to get him off his rhythm. And it hit home. It hit home. That was a delayed blitz by Kalen DeLoach there that got in there and caused that fumble. You know, I didn't think he was going to get there, but it just timed up. It was perfect. It was his backside. It just so happened to be one of the plays where he's down the field throwing the ball, and perfect timing. Bam, ball's out, picks it up, and he's touchdown. And so, You know, I mean, I think that was great. I mean, we had to do something because they were physical. They were more physical than us, which is shocking to me.
Yeah.
But they were more physical than us on both sides of the ball there up front.
Yeah,
I
good
thought it
thing
was
Brandon
about-
Fisk.
Go ahead, JP.
Good thing Brandon Fisk handed that off to Deloach.
Yeah.
No, big boy. No.
I was like, yeah, get rid of that ball. Give it to number 4. Let him get to the house. Yeah, I was standing up just screaming, go. And that was obviously the biggest play of the game. When you get outgained 429 to 311, outrushed, 126 to 22. Out time of possession by 10 minutes. But you got the big turnover. You know, turnovers, scooping scores, pick sixes. What is it? 85% of the time, 90% of the time you win a game with one of those.
Yeah.
They're huge turns. And in this game, to me, was about just big plays. That play, the missed field goal. Thank God the writer's strike is still on.
Yes,
I mean, I was like, oh my God, this guy's definitely going to make it. This is too scripted. My God. And then he hooks it. And I'm like, oof. And then you get the reprieve, and offensively, boy, did we call some bad series late in the game. You know, late in regulation, just drop the ball off to a running back on 3rd and 9, get 4 or 5, and you're going to go for it on 4th down anyway. So I thought the offensive play calls, the last 2 offensive sequences were god awful. Taking deep shots, didn't need to take those deep shots. And I wonder, guys, you know, when Travis hurt his hand, he seemed oddly inaccurate second half. I thought he missed a lot of throws that he doesn't usually miss. I think we might find out that he has a finger injury of some type on that hand. Did you notice that?
Well, I know from with life.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Listen, they couldn't sustain a drive. Go ahead, Jerry.
I thought there were a couple times where he took deep chunks. We had one that was a 3rd and 10 or 12, and he threw it deep to, I think, Johnny or 4, but he could have run with that ball. And probably first down. And the other one out of the end zone, I kind of thought a quarterback draw there they had a hand rush.
Yeah.
And he could have gotten us 7 or 8 anyway. It was a 3rd and 19, but at least it had given the punter a little bit more room.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, what a game Alex Mastromano had, by the way.
Yes.
I mean, he flipped the field a couple of times for FSU, and I don't think we'll spend enough time mentioning those guys sometimes. But
I thought I saw you. I don't know if you guys saw, but it was one play. It was like a play where we had to have some yards. It was kind of late in the drives, and then Jordan slid. He slid, and that was kind of I was like, you got to understand the circumstances of the game. I know you protect yourself, but sliding and getting a 2-yard gain is not. It's not the time for that one. So I don't know if he was hurt or he felt. Well, he felt
very unlike him. Very unlike him.
Very unlike him in that moment at big game.
Kez, let me remind you of our pregame talk. You said in our pregame that what we do in the first part of the game will kind of dictate how the coaches feel about themselves, about their team. But I thought about that, what you said when he slid. That kind of spoke to me about how he feels about himself right now.
Yeah.
I mean, his hand might be hurt, his shoulder might be whatever.
Yeah.
He felt the need to get down for some reason.
Yeah, he did. And the circumstance of the game didn't, I'm sure he knew that we needed this, right?
Yeah.
But for
he
him
must
to
have
make
been
a
hurt.
play, he didn't feel comfortable. It seemed like he didn't feel comfortable.
Well, there were times where you can tell he was favoring that left shoulder. He kind of dangled it a couple times. Now, not all the time, and listen, but they did mention it a couple times, and he kept messing with his hand. I know he cut his hand open, and listen, those things aren't terrible injuries, but all the nerves and your fingers and your hands, those things continue to bother you. It's painful if nothing else, even if it's not severe. I think that I think he was a little hurt. I think he probably knew they needed him in that ball game, just the threat of the run from him to keep the comeback going. And listen, going back to Mastromano for a second, guys, 6 punts, 49.3 average, long of 59. Wow. 4 of his 5 punts were 50 yards or more. I believe it was 2 inside the 20. So
1 inside the 5.
Yeah. So he had he had a big game, and I thought both punters did well. But the only one really concerned about is Mastromanno. But he had a heck of a game and an impact on this game, and flipping that field. Anytime you punt the ball for 50 yards plus 50 4 times, you're having an impact on the game.
Let's talk about special teams and the effect they can have in a close game. Florida State won the kicking. Yep. The kicker won it, and the punter won it.
Yeah.
And I don't think our returns did anything to hurt us.
Yeah. Well, I think our team is not concerned about returns a whole lot because I think the focus has been on offense. Our offense is good. Just make sure we get the ball. And so Kian is not a great punt returner. He's there to catch the ball. And so they just want to get the ball and get it to Travis's hands. And so our offense can be the main factor on that deal.
If I'm nitpicking some of the coaching decisions, I thought the offensive calls, as I mentioned, were not great at the end of the game. Defensively, it seems like on a lot of third downs and third and long, especially last week against Boston College, teams are getting whatever they want. Right? They're getting what they want. They're getting good matchups. Jerry, we talked about this before. The slants, the one-on-one slants seem way too easy. Some dump downs to the backs seem way too easy. And that's concerning to me. I know they were only 6 of 14 on third down. I thought their numbers would be better than that.
Yeah, I did too. I thought they would be better when I looked at the stat sheet.
Yeah, and they did convert a fourth down. But, I'll nitpick that a little bit. I think we could be better. But the numbers, 6 of 14 on third down is not bad. The FSU was only 4 of 13. Their third down calls are a little curious as well. But defensively, I think there's more talent here. I think there's more. I think they can be better. And I was surprised that they were pushed around up front as well. I thought we early in the game, they went to Shipley on 3rd and 3, like in the old days, like last year, they did that a lot. And it was on 3rd and 5, they were giving it to Shipley and he was getting it every time. And so they tried that in the first, I think it was the first series, and FSU stopped them. I'm like, okay, that's a difference. But then as the game wore on, I think they were winning that battle, which is why in overtime on 2nd and 1, you throw the ball out to the perimeter and lose 2 yards. I'm just sitting there going, what are you doing? And Dabo's running on, yelling at Klubnik, 1 yard. And I guess he had a check there that he could go to, but my God, they could have handed it off to Shipley just into the end zone in overtime.
Yeah, 2 plays. You run it up the middle.
Sorry,
you
not
run
sorry.
Zone, you run counter. You're right. Dabo certainly helped in that regard, and so did Garrett Riley.
Yeah, you know what?
You do not give a quarterback with 4 starts that freedom. I'm sorry, just don't. It worked out to FSU's advantage.
Yeah, I am concerned about our third downs on both sides. Really, if you look at it, Ray, they seem like they got more third downs in tough situations than I think they ought to. Now it wasn't super high, but it's just in pivotal moments they were able to convert those third downs, and then we have struggled on third downs, and that's been a pattern for the last couple of years. We're really great on first down play action, first down, second down play action, short yardage play action. We're really good at that, but we're not very good on third downs, and so that's concerning. And I think that was one of my notes before the game is just either stay out of third down, or
third long,
third and long, third and medium. Really, we struggle with third and medium too as well. So we're just not very good in those moments, and so I just think that's an area of concern. If we can get better at that, then we'll have more production. We'll wear the teams out. We'll get a chance to get understanding of what they're doing, because you get a chance to more bats, and then you get a chance to be able to have some other calls that you can kind of sew into the context of the game. And so,
is that play calling mostly third downs, offensively and defensively? To me, it seems like that's where great coaches make their hay. You've got that play sheet where you've got a couple matchups that you've seen on film this week. This is the time to go to that on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. You execute it, and that's such a game changer. Is that more play calling, you guys think?
Well, I think it's play design, or really emphasis, right? If you look at Florida State, we are a first down run play action team. Our primary focus is going to be first down. We don't want to get behind the stick. We don't want to measure behind the sticks. We don't want to be in third down. If we're in first down and we're getting 5, 6, 7, 8 yards, it's hog heaven. And when we get to third downs, we don't have enough concepts in the game to be able to to be able to win in that situation, right? That's to me, that's West Coast, that's air raid, fully air raid type of stuff, and that's not what we hang our hat. We're more of a run, play action, type of team, and so if we can stay out of third downs, it's for our benefit. But if we get in third down, we struggle. We struggle.
Well, and I think
Pat,
a part of that was your average third down distance was 8.1, and out of those, 5 were 9 plus or longer. You were 0 for 5 on those. You were 2 for 2 on third and shorts, which is 1 through 4. So and you were only 5 for 9 passing for 42 yards in those situations. So obviously 8 times 9, 72. So you didn't get anywhere close to picking up the yardage you needed. And I think some of that was, as Kez said earlier, some of the pressure Jordan was under. You didn't have a lot of time to get off the ball. Get the ball off. I was a little bit surprised at FSU. Now I did think this coming into the game. I thought this was the best defensive front they'd seen all year. I thought it was better than LSU. I think it's the best defense they've seen all year, and the stats bear that out, right? I mean, you can't run from that, and I don't know if they'll face them. The good news is I don't know if they'll face a better defense as we move forward with the schedule. But yeah, the third down was not very pretty again this week. But listen. Clemson did not, they were 42%.
At least 2 of those were drops too, right? At least 2. Johnny dropped 1 and Keon dropped a third down. Both of them, right, Kez?
Yeah.
What are we doing there? What are we doing with Come on now.
Yeah, Keon got to attack the ball downhill. He was waiting. The guy was able to recover, and Johnny just got to catch the ball. So you got to catch the ball. And some of those, give him a chance. You got to give some of those guys a chance too as well. Some of those back shoulder throws and jump balls, man. If it was me, I would say, man, you gotta at least get a pass interference, collision that guy, push him, you push him, or him push you, something, getting body. Don't just let him, a little guy, get a knockdown without having to come in there and play a little post basketball, right? And so him and Keon, right? If you get one of those fade balls, man, you gotta pass interference, man, or something. We're gonna have a collision. Coach, you're gonna be mad at me, or I'm gonna be mad, or his coach gonna be mad at him, because we're gonna push and pull a little bit.
Yeah, I thought there were some drops early that really cost, and then you had a couple of illegal formation penalties. They had that on 4th and 1 where they completed the pass to Keon. I don't know why they didn't use a timeout in that situation. You had multiple guys looking over the sideline trying to figure out where they were supposed to line up, and then you complete a pass. It would have been called the timeout. I think it was the first half. I believe that was a first half situation. I could be wrong. It might have been early third. But certainly there you don't take any chances because you end up punting the ball and giving it back to Clemson, which at that time was moving the ball really on a fairly really well at that time. So yeah, I thought that was a little bit odd too. And then you look at third down, and both teams were averaging almost 7 yards per first down play, and then to find themselves in third and long so many times kind of surprised me. And I have not looked at the penalty sheet yet, so you'll have to excuse me for that. I don't think it was. I don't remember seeing a ton of flags in this ball game, and maybe that's because I was at Boston College last week and there were flags every other play.
Yeah, and I'll say this right here too. I know we were talking about just the jump balls, the fade balls that they were throwing on third down and stuff a lot. But a lot of times they were playing man and they were sending pressure too as well. That would dictate, those type of throws in those moments too. You got so many routes that you're going to run against press coverage, slant, or especially getting pressure or fade. And so you got to pick one of those bad boys that's getting the ball. You got to run on the slant, or if you got a shallow cross or some kind of way you can get. But it's very hard when you getting pressure and some of those exotic blitzes with press coverage. So you just got to win those things. You just got to win them.
Listen. This is an interesting stat. Johnny Wilson, 5 catches on 14 targets. Keon, 5 catches on 11 targets. Yeah, so that to me is a very interesting stat. I'd have to go back and look at the throws again, as we will tomorrow. But yeah, that just jumps out at me right there. I'm glad they started throwing the ball to Keon. Go ahead, Jerry.
It's a 40% completion on targets.
Not very good. Yeah, not very good. And I saw. I mean, some of the throws were not. I mean, some of them were Travis, some of them were those guys too as well. Some of the throws, and so I think it's a combination of both those guys, and then also some of the pressure too. They had more. Travis had more pressure today than he had, and then a lot of those pressures too. I thought Travis would have been able to escape from, right, and he didn't. And I wonder why too. I was watching. I said Travis is fast enough to get out of there.
Right. You weren't right today.
Yeah, it does seem like that he was not feeling confident. And use all of his skills and abilities and his physical prowess. And I can't help but think his injury issues are in there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I agree with you. The ducking down on run, the slide down, that's something we are not used to seeing Jordan Travis do. We talked about it on the pregame today. I think if Mike had asked him to run the ball 30 times, he would have run it 30 times. Now, postgame, I'm not sure that's true. I am concerned a little bit about that shoulder. The good news is they got a week off. Then you got Virginia Tech coming to town. It's not a team, based on what we've seen so far this year, that should be able – you shouldn't have to run Jordan a lot against them. You should come out and take care of business. They're one of the I said that going into Boston College, who was one of the worst teams in the ACC coming into that game. But, yeah, listen, we've said this after the LSU game. Guys, when you're playing this caliber opponent, it's not all going to look pretty. It's not – you're going to go through ebbs and flows. It's not a Boston College. It's not a Southern Miss. It's not a Duquesne. There's going to be ebbs and flows. And the one thing that I can remember, Jerry, us talking about, and Kez, I think you had been a part of this conversation. JP, you and I talked about it when Mike Norvell got here. What we wanted to see before a win even was see a team that would fight for 4 quarters.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we're getting into the point now where maybe what we saw today was a team that wanted to win that ball game the most, even though, to JP's point, on both sides of the equation, maybe the coaching wasn't up to par. Yeah. We talked about Dabo. I got a couple of texts during the game that had some issues with Mike's play calling in the second half, and I'll go back and look at that and see what I think about that. But listen, did the team that wanted this game the most win it today? I mean, it was – but I thought both teams played hard throughout. They were neither one perfect, and there's a lot of stuff in the secondary at FSU and even at the second level with the linebackers that have to be cleaned up. I was very discouraged by the inability to run the ball, although I do think Clemson's defensive line and linebackers are the best we've seen so far this year, and that plays a factor in it. But listen, I think the team that wanted this game the most and was most lack of a better term, most complete because you factor in the special teams, and Fitzpatrick was perfect. Their kicker was not. But did the team that wanted this game the most win?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, JP?
Yeah, I think they did. And to your point, and what I was saying early on, the culture is back to the point where these guys will fight their ass off, and they will not. And that to me shows, that's the biggest thing. You got to have guys that want to win. For a long time here, there were guys. We saw a lot of quitting out there, and it was tough to see. These guys don't quit. They fight hard. They play hard. They play hard for their coaches. They play hard for each other. And I love seeing that. So I'm now looking at this from a perspective of, we're at 4-0, having played in LSU, having played on the road at Clemson. Neither one of those games, obviously, at your home. Having survived a tough road game as well. I mean, we know some stuff about this team. We know some stuff. And you look around the nation, who's great? Nobody. Nobody's great yet. Nobody's shown me anything yet. So are we one of 6, one of 8 that can win it? Yeah, I think we are. Are we good enough after not running the ball today and getting pushed around a little bit defensively against the run? As you guys said, that's what scares me, because if you get into a physical game with Georgia or Alabama, almost put Alabama in there, Georgia or some of these other
teams,
Michigan, Ohio State. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But I like a lot of what I said. I think we got a shot, which is better than I thought we'd have for a long time here.
Well, listen, and I think it speaks to the volume of players they have on the perimeter that you can be shut down like they were in the run game, and you've got a Keon Coleman and a Johnny Wilson. And I still don't understand why the tight ends are not a bigger part of this passing game than they have. But that is one thing that does baffle me. But listen, I think it says a lot to those two guys in particular. And listen, they're mismatches from a size standpoint for sure. 6'7", 6'4". Keon, he had a drop early. One of his catches was taken back because of that illegal procedure. But I think what it shows opposing defensive coordinators moving forward is, listen, you can try to take away the run, but we're going to find enough big plays because in the offense to overcome a bad day rushing. And I think, as negative as it was that you could not produce anything in the run game. And listen, if Jordan Travis has been healthy, which we all think he was after watching this game, I think obviously that opens up an extra hole in your offense because you got to account for them. They didn't really have to account for them today, but other opposing offenses will. So I think you can look at this both ways, and we all have coaching backgrounds and all competitive backgrounds playing. Our tendency is to look at what went wrong, right? But you got to think if you're Florida State, an opposition coming into Florida State, or when they go on the road, you can try to shut down the run game, and you can crowd the box kind of like Florida State did, or Clemson did, and Florida State's going to find some success in the deep passing game. I was a little bit. Listen, I did not see Clemson play a lot of man free during the course of the regulation, but they played man free in that overtime period when they hit Coleman for the winning touchdown. Kids, did that surprise you a little bit? Yeah, man free. Yep.
Single high safety. Yep.
Man free or robber. They robbed a couple times. They dropped in they robbed the underneath, stuff like that. And they had quite a bit of that in the game where they had some man free in there. And usually most college teams are going to play too high look, and they got the safeties rolling down for run support and all that kind of good stuff. But that was one of the things because I was concerned about too. But then also, like, you had Jaheim. Jaheim played most of the slot reps, right? Usually it's Jaheim is playing tight end, and then you have one of the Winston Wright or a doggone, I can't think of my name, 7 is in there playing the slot. And they didn't get a whole lot of run today. They didn't get a whole lot of run. There was a lot of Jaheim in there. And so and I saw him have some opportunities to have some one-on-one balls with some guys too as well. And they just chose the better looks, right? And I think I said it before, quarterbacks have their guys, right? You got to gain their confidence, right? And quarterbacks got their safety blanket. As a former safety blanket, I know how it works, right? And so, but those are some of the things. And then also tackling from the secondary too, as well. I saw that at the beginning of the game, right, that we struggled with keeping contained and making tackles from the secondary that gave them opportunities, especially on their backs, to have bigger plays. We did not do a good job of tackling their backs in the open field, and so. Those are some of the concerns there. Now, one of my biggest things is right here is I'm trying to reassess and think, okay, what is Florida State's identity, right? I thought, for a while, I guess at the LSU game, I thought, man, the defensive line is stout, man. We can pound up some run, right? And this game right here, they didn't run it all crazy, but they were consistently pushing us back. We wasn't playing on that side of the ball. We had some good plays. And then on offense, right, just, for us too, is ability to run the ball and, the matchups outside, consistently hitting those matchups outside. I thought, what is our identity? And I'm reassessing that now to figure out what's our identity. And I know what our overall identity is. We don't quit. We're going to play hard. We're going to make a play. But just, offensively and defensively, who are these guys? I'm right now trying to assess that now after this game. And the skill sets and our confidence in those skill sets.
Listen, I thought they did a good. Go ahead, Jerry.
I was going to say the keys to me for this game was poise. Poise under what was going to be pressure, and Clemson made it. I mean, they had a great momentum run in the first half, and we survived it at halftime with 17-14. There were several times that they made a good run at us, and we responded. And that's something we haven't been able to do at Clemson in years past. So I thought that was good. And to Clemson's credit, we had some momentum there, and they fought back. So sometimes when you're standing toe to toe throwing haymakers, you're not going to look pretty doing it.
No.
And so it wasn't pretty, but I thought we did see some identity. That's what I said. This game would be an identity game for both fan bases because neither one of us knew what we had coming in. I'm still not sure what we have other than the fact that we'll fight.
Yeah.
Well, I think you've got a team that's athletic enough and gifted enough, particularly on offense, that it can overcome a bad day. I think that's what we saw today with Keon and Johnny and Trey had a good day catching the ball. I think he was 3 catches for 50 yards, and one of the catches he made on the
it was a heck of a catch.
The first scoring drive was a great catch on the sideline. So, listen, defensively, I thought they did well against the run. I mean, they held Shipley to 67 yards on 18 carries, which is a 3.7-yard average. That guy had 130 yards after contact coming into this game. I didn't see him bounce off a lot of people. 2 or 3 runs maybe. And then Maffa had the hot hand for them, 10 rushes for 69 yards, and I didn't think they fed him the ball enough. So I'd take that. Now, one thing I would like to see happening moving forward with a critical eye is we keep on seeing these young, inexperienced quarterbacks come in the last 3 or 4 years and have these career days. Clay Kubnick was 25 of 38 for 283. The fumble was not his fault. Maffa missed the block. It's the second week in a row we've seen a guy that has less than 5 games of starting experience come out, and he looked like a senior quarterback in that first half. So that would probably be I think I was more frustrated with the lack of ability to cover receivers and have these kids have success than I was the rush defense. Listen, tackling was an issue in the first half, but it certainly improved in the second, and where it just turned in kind of a bloodbath where these guys were stifling each other. I mean, you look at the drive chart in the second half, I think the longest drive for either team was 8 plays, and it was only about 50 yards, if my mind serves me correctly. I'm going to pull it up right now. But, all right, guys, so 4-0, can't be nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
So you got a week off. Then you got Virginia Tech coming in. And then you've Virginia Tech at home. You got a 3-game homestand, I believe. Then you got Virginia Tech. Let me scroll down here, and I can tell you who they got after that. Syracuse and Duke, number 18 Duke. And then you're on the road at Wake Forest, then at Pitt, then Miami comes to you before North Alabama. What do you guys think? What does this win do for this football team as it gets ready to have a week off and then go into a 5-game ACC run? Jerry, I'll start with you.
I think the big thing they need to do is rest. I mean, they need to get healthy in the next couple of weeks because it's going to be a tough run. I mean, Miami, Duke, Florida, and who knows who else. But we got to get healthy. I think we're nicked up.
Yeah,
and everybody in college football is at this point. But Robert Scott's got to get back. We got to get our safety back.
Yeah, that hurt today.
Yeah, and so I think that's the big thing. Just get healthy. Yeah, get Dent back.
Yeah,
and
and
that'll help you in your secondary, I think.
What about you, JP?
It's not going to solve it, but
yeah, bye week. We had a bye week, right? This week, right?
Yep,
so it comes at a really good time. And get some guys healthy, and I think do a lot of self scouting. I think this team's best football is ahead of them. I really, I think the athletes on this team, I think the talent is there. I don't know if the coaches have figured out, as we talked about, where their best options are on third down, who their best options are, where to go. I think there's a lot more in this team. That second half at LSU tells me there's a lot more in this team because that team can't be beat. That team we saw in the second half at LSU, they pushed all the right buttons. I think they showed from a talent scheme, who they are and who they can be. The last 2 weeks have been question marks. The more film others get on you, the more they can do to you. So our coaches have to step up with some good self-scouting and come up with some schemes, maybe have a little bit more of an identity, Kez, to your point, and Jerry, to your point. And I think this team can finish with a flourish, but they've got to continue to get better. This is a key moment. This bye week is a great opportunity for you. I saw during the Super Bowl run for the Bucs a couple of years ago. They had a bye week right after they lost to Kansas City, but they really knew who they were and what they had, and Brady and the whole bunch. After that, they went on an 8-game run. They just got so much better. They were so much better on third down. They self-scouted. They figured out what they do best and where they can attack other teams. And I think that's where this coaching staff needs to go right now. They need to get guys in the right positions and start calling of some plays in key spots that really take advantage of the talent that we have in Trey Benson and Teofili and some of the backs and the tight end. To your point, I mean, you've got to get Shaheem Bell more into these games and key third down plays. So I think there's a lot more football ahead, and I think that their best football should be ahead of them.
Kez?
Yeah, what was I going to say? I think, again, there's so much pressure to peak at the first game of the year. The first game of the year, my bird is talking. You cannot talk, bird. All right. There's so much pressure to peak at the first game of the year. The first game of the year, you're supposed to look the best you're going to look all year. The second game of the year, you're supposed to look the best you're going to look all year. The third and fourth, and a lot of times what happens is right here, especially in our situation, right, where you have a lot of guys that come in and different guys, you have to mesh. You got to be able to see what the guys how they play in the system, what they can do. They get to get comfortable too as well. And so I think we still have a lot of those things going on in our offense and our defense too as well. Is guys getting to understand who they're playing with, right? And I think it takes a while for that to happen. And it's such pressure to try to be peak, to be the best. You're national championship level by game 4. And that's not true, right? It's not true that you're going to be at that level. And so that's my thought, really. Just, I think we got to survive. And until we find that rhythm that we need to have on offense and on defense, who needs to be in the game, what situations, what things they do well, we got to be patient to get all the pieces in the right place.
Yeah, listen, I agree with a lot of what you guys said. I do think their best football is ahead of them. I think they've got 2 weeks to get ready for a very average Virginia Tech team. I agree with JP. I think they've got to get some people in the right places. I'm not sure they don't need to move Kevin Knowles back to corner and get these young safeties ready over the next 2 weeks. And if they get Dent back, then that move is a little bit easier to make. Certainly, they'll have some time to do those type of things. I was sitting here thinking, I remember Rodney Hill saying after last week's game, he went in the ball underneath the Boston College Stadium that, they were happy to win, but there was no party in the locker room. I guarantee you there's a hell of a party in that locker room tonight. And it'll be anything but a quiet plane trip home, which it was last week from my understanding. And I guarantee you there'll be a hell of a party in Tallahassee, Florida tonight. And I bet Jerry Kutz is going to be a part of it.
Better be. Let's all head out to Tennessee Street. Let's go.
Yeah, well, I'll be there in spirit, buddy. Or I think it's College Town now, and I think JP's going to have a good time. And I think everybody should enjoy this victory. It's been a long time coming from Florida State, and we've been wanting to have one of these conversations for when Jerry and I restarted this thing with Bob in 2019. We didn't know what we gotten ourselves into from a football watching standpoint, and we used to come on these shows on Sundays and be very, very depressed. And Mark and I felt like we were gluttons for punishment because we would do these hour-long shows on Sundays after some of the worst football we'd ever seen. So I guess listen, it's fun. I agree with everything you guys said. The program is headed in the right direction. I think we all know that. Florida State's now won 10 games in a row. I think they're 10 of their last 10 of 14, right? 11 of 14, something like that. But anyway, I'm sorry.
10 in a row. That's all that matters.
10 games.
Let's go.
Yeah, 10 in a row. That's all that matters. I'm not good at math. That's what we just learned today, too. Yeah. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all joining me.
Pat.
Everybody wants to go enjoy the celebration. And Florida State rolls to its fourth straight victory of the year with a 31-24 overtime win over Clemson for their first win since 2014. Woo-hoo. And if you're not an Osceola subscriber, please go to theosceola.com or floridastate.rivals.com. Bob Ferrante and Kurt Weiler are on scene at Clemson Stadium, and they will have post-game coverage on the website. And obviously, we will start second watch Sunday with Mark Salvo. It may start as early as tonight. Mark is at a wedding, which he's certainly not happy about. But he's going to try to start watching the game tonight. But listen, victorious day for the Noles.
No weddings allowed in football season.
Everything is in front of Florida State as they are the leader in the clubhouse in the ACC right now.
Let's go. See you guys.
I was the only 2-0 program in the ACC, and some big games tonight. Good night, guys. Have a good one.
See you, guys.